So you finally decide that you have had enough of the narcissist's abuse. You're dedicated to ending this relationship and moving on with your life, only to find that the narcissist isn't done with you. If you've been researching narcissism at all, you've probably heard of the Narcissist'S Hoover, named after the Hoover vacuum cleaner, and the way that many narcissists will try to suck you back into the relationship that you're trying to get out of. And these hoovering techniques can be very, very effective because we're already in a really vulnerable place. And they're designed to be misinterpreted. They're designed to trick us into thinking that going back is a good idea. So in today's video, I'm going to go over several examples of what hoovers can look like and what these things actually mean versus what we might hope they mean. And I hope that in doing this, I can help some of you out there resist the urge to go back to a relationship that you're trying to get out of. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. Before I get too far into this, I first want to address the situation in which you don't get hoovered. I think a lot of us can hear so much about the way a narcissist hoovers people that if it doesn't happen to us, it can actually hurt quite a bit in a weird, twisted kind of way. Getting hoovered can actually make you feel special in a really toxic, unhealthy way. So when you don't get hoovered and you hear about how all these other people are getting hoovered, it can actually make you feel like you're being rejected all over again. And while it is true when I say if you're not being hoovered, you're lucky, consider yourself lucky, I also know that that's not really an effective way to help people feel better about not getting hoovered, because this is a really deep psychological mind game that is all intertwined with the abuse and all the other things that you need to heal from in this. But I do want to say, and I hope this is more helpful, that the narcissistic hoover is not a sign of acceptance or love or your value as a human being or how good of a partner you were or friend or whatever, how good of a person you were, how hard you tried. It's not based on any kind of sentiment. The narcissistic hoover is about control, period. That is all it is. It's about the narcissist's desire to control you, to regain control. It's about the feeling that they have that they own you, that you're an object that they own. They don't see your worth. They don't have emotional sentiment. They don't miss you in that way, even if they hoover you or they don't. It has nothing to do with that. Getting hoovered doesn't mean that you're more worthy of a person. Although the narcissist wants you to measure your self-worth based on the way they treat you. The way they treat you is one of the most meaningless measures of your own self-worth that you could ever use. If a narcissist hoovers you or doesn't, it's all just based on how the narcissist feels about themselves and where they're getting the biggest bang for their buck. If they feel like they need to regain control over you to feel like a worthwhile human being, to feel relevant, to feel important, then that's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to concentrate their energy on. But at the same time, if a narcissist can find supply or validation somewhere else, then they're going to spend their energy over there and they're not going to bother trying to regain control of you. Some narcissists in some situations might be convinced that if they try to reach out and hoover you back in, for whatever reason, they're going to fail. You're not going to respond to their manipulation. And so if they believe that, whether it's true or not, they're not even going to bother. Why waste the time and energy trying to do that? So there are a lot of different reasons that a narcissist will choose to hoover you or not, but none of those reasons have anything to do with love or how much you're worth or how good of a person you are or how much attention you deserve. It has nothing to do with you at all. It never did. At no point in the beginning, in the middle, or at the end of a relationship with a narcissist, does the narcissist's behavior have any reflection on reality at all? Have any reflection of what kind of a person you are and what kind of love or attention or whatever you deserve as a human being? Okay, so what are several examples of what hoovers look like if you are getting hoovered? I think the most classic hoover, or the one that many of us will experience, is the narcissist finally getting it. They finally understand what we're saying. They're finally acknowledging these things they've done to us. They're finally sorry. They're finally willing to change and take accountability. Or maybe they're finally giving us gifts, or, you know, doing the dishes, taking the garbage out. Maybe they finally got a job, whatever it was that you were trying and trying and trying so hard to try to get through to them. When you finally give up and you leave, you end this relationship, all of a sudden the narcissist is apologizing and suddenly seemingly understanding all these things that you have tried so hard to explain to them for who knows how long. And this can be really, really hard to ignore and walk away from, because there's been so much emotional energy poured into this. I mean, you probably still love this person. You're emotionally invested in this relationship. You've probably just been at your wit's end, just been desperate, willing to do anything to get this person to do whatever it is you needed them to do. You know, listen to you, talk to you, get a job, whatever it was. And all of a sudden now they're finally doing it. It's like you've been sitting at a slot machine for years, pushing the button over and over and over. And just as you get up to walk away, you suddenly hit the jackpot. I mean, oh my gosh, how do you ignore that? How do you walk away from that? When all of this energy you've invested, all of this hurt and this disappointment and this desperation has taken such a toll on you. You're not in the strongest point when you're leaving an abusive relationship. You're really vulnerable, and you're probably still really wishing and hoping that you didn't have to end this relationship, that things could have worked out differently. And now all of a sudden you're being told that things are finally going to work out the way that you've wanted so badly for them to. How are you supposed to ignore that? So for starters, I think that when this happens, it's really just proof that this person has understood all along what it is that you wanted and needed from them. And now that you're actually leaving, now all of a sudden they're going to start listening to you. And 99.99% of the time when this happens, if you go back to the relationship, they're going to just resume whatever it was they were doing before. They're going to go back to business as usual because now the heat's off. And that is just how it works. They know what you want. They have known all along, but they're not willing to do what you need until you've practically forced them to do it by leaving. And force them to do it, they're not doing what you want because they care about you. They're not doing what you want because they suddenly see how much they stand to lose and they suddenly realize how much they love you. They're doing it because they want control back, because they were in control of you and now they've lost control. And that is like the end of the world for a narcissist. And so they're just trying to regain control. They're trying to regain possession of something they feel like they own. And if they do, not only are things going to go back to the way they were before, as soon as you're back under control, they're probably going to be much worse because now they're angry that you forced them to do what you want so that they could regain control of something that they felt entitled to in the first place. Now, me having said all of this might still not be enough to help you resist going back to somebody that suddenly gets it, that suddenly understands all these things you've been trying to explain, because you're still emotionally vulnerable, you're still invested, you're still in a really difficult position where you probably still really, really wish that you didn't have to do this. You didn't have to leave, uproot your whole life, whatever it is you have to give up and sacrifice in order to get away from this relationship. It's probably not easy. You're probably having to do a lot of very, very difficult things that you would do almost anything to avoid. So if there's even a glimmer of hope, even a sliver of a chance that maybe this person really can come around, maybe this relationship really can work, it's almost impossible to resist the temptation to give it a chance because you so desperately want it to work. And when they're saying and doing all the things that you've been wanting them to say and do, how do you walk away from that? What if it's really for real? What if they really finally get it this time? I mean, people do have wake-up calls, right? People do lose things and then change themselves, finally have that last straw that finally gets through to them and changes whatever it is they need to change, right? That does happen. So how do you know? How do you walk away when you're not 100% sure that this person's never going to change their ways? I think, first of all, when you end an abusive relationship, you really have to be clear with yourself that you are done. You are done with this relationship, because you can almost count on this person coming back in some way trying to convince you to give them another chance. It's very, very likely that that's going to happen. You really have to decide ahead of time that you have had enough and that you're not willing to take another chance. And also just know that if you're leaving an abusive relationship, the chances that they are going to change are extremely, extremely low. So this sudden change that you see is very common, and it almost never means that they've actually changed. But again, what if they have? I think it's really hard for anyone who hasn't been in an abusive relationship to understand how hard it is to let go of this teeny tiny little shred of hope that maybe they've changed. But here's one thing that I've brought up many times on this channel, but I think this is one thing that is really important for you to consider if you're having trouble with this. And that is, what exactly do you think this person is going to change into? Best case scenario, maybe you are the 1 in a million exception to the rule, and maybe this person really is sorry and they really are going to change their ways. Well, what are they going to change into? What's the best case scenario? The best you could really hope for with a narcissist is maybe they learn to control their reactions and their behavior a little bit, and they aren't as mean to you. They aren't using you as an emotional punching bag. For one thing, somebody that's made a habit out of abusing you isn't going to be able to just shut that off overnight. They really aren't. It's like an addiction. They're not going to be able to just stop doing that. They need professional help in order to take accountability and to understand why they are compelled to do that and to learn new habits. That's not something that just happens overnight. And even if somehow it magically could happen, there's nothing this person is going to become that makes the chance worth it. Abusive people are dangerous. They're destroying your life. They're ruining you emotionally, maybe physically. They're putting you in danger. Instead of asking yourself, what if this person really could change? What if they really mean it this time? Ask yourself, what if they don't? What if it's business as usual? What if they continue to hurt me? What if the abuse gets worse? What if I end up in real trouble? What if the abuse I've suffered so far is nothing compared to what's in store for me if I go back? Because that is the much, much more likely scenario. Those are the much more important questions you should be asking yourself that are based on reality of what's likely to happen if you go back. Now I want to talk about another hoovering technique that's really common, and that is the narcissist will suddenly invent emergencies. They will suddenly text you or call you and say, my car broke down, or maybe my dog is sick, or my dad just had a heart attack and I'm in the hospital and I feel so terrible. Or maybe they will be threatening to hurt themselves because they're so distraught having lost you, or maybe they lost their job and now they can't pay their rent, or whatever, just some sort of sudden emergency where they need your help or they need your support. I actually knew someone, and you've probably heard stories about this, but I personally knew somebody whose abusive ex suddenly got cancer right after she left him, and she went back. And I wasn't there when this happened, so I'm not sure exactly the details, but she was driving him back and forth to appointments and everything for a while. And then it eventually came out that it was completely fabricated. He did not have cancer at all. And I mean, she eventually broke up with him for good. But I mean, the lengths that a narcissist or a sociopath will go to regain control of somebody are really limitless. They really will do anything that they think will work. And this type of hoovering technique can be effective on you even if you want out of the relationship. Like you're past the point where you miss them and you wish that the relationship could work. You're truly over it. You truly want this person out of your life, but now they need you. And how can you be so mean and cold? How can you tell somebody that suddenly has cancer that you don't care and you're not going to help them? This is really an effective technique for people that are caring, people that don't want others to think that they're mean or that they don't care. And narcissists know this. That's why they come up with these things. So if this is something that you've encountered, that you struggle with, I want you to remember that you owe yourself protection before you owe attention and support to somebody who's already hurt you. Abusive people are dangerous. They are dangerous, especially if you've left, especially if they have lost control of you. Do not underestimate what these types of people are capable of when they're trying to regain control of you. Even if they really do have cancer, or their dog really is sick, or their car really did break down, you do not owe them anything anymore. They have abused you. They are not your friend. You don't owe them support. They should not be calling you for help with anything. They don't need your help. They feel like they need to control you. They feel like they own you. That's what these messages are for, these phone calls, these text messages with emergencies. This isn't a person reaching out for help and support in their hour of desperate need. This is a person that is trying to regain control of you and prove to the world how cold and mean and spiteful you are. Remember, Ted Bundy lured many of his victims by pretending to be disabled and needing help with something. He took advantage of people that wanted to be helpful, that felt like they owed that to a random stranger. And somebody that has abused you, somebody that you're trying to escape a relationship from, that's not even a random stranger on the street. That's someone you know is harmful, you know is dangerous. You already know that about them. And for them to suddenly need your help with something, that should be a huge red flag, huge warning signs going off. Don't take the bait. You don't owe this person anything. You owe yourself protection. You owe it to yourself to ignore this person's pleas for help. They can get help from somewhere else, and it is perfectly fine if they want to believe that you are a cold, mean person. That's better than what might happen to you if you go back. Now, a couple other ways that narcissists can hoover you that are a little different. These are more of like negative type hoovers. And one way is the threat of blackmailing you. Like if you don't stay with them, or if you don't continue to associate with them or continue to do what they want in what ways they want, then they're going to tell everybody about something you did or something you said. And this thing can be true, or it can be a lie. It doesn't matter. And you don't want them spreading lies or truths about you. You don't want them to ruin your reputation. So you do what they say. You try to make them happy so that they won't do that. There is no end to this type of trap. If the narcissist has the capability of smearing you in a smear campaign, that's something they're going to hold over your head for as long as you allow them to hold it over your head. And it's probably something that they're going to do at some point, regardless of how hard you try and how much you sacrifice to try to control their behavior. I've experienced a pretty brutal smear campaign myself. And it's my opinion that as terrible as that was, it was absolutely worth it 1,000 times over, because I broke free of that relationship. Breaking free of an abusive, exploitive relationship is worth losing your reputation, in my opinion, especially among people that are emotionally invested in believing the narcissist story. What are you really gaining by sacrificing your dignity and your autonomy and your freedom to protect your reputation against a bunch of people that are willing to just discard you like a piece of garbage anyway, based on what somebody else is saying? People that are worth keeping around in your life aren't going to just throw you away like a piece of garbage based on what somebody else has said, based on rumors. And even if there's really severe consequences like losing your job, things like that, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, maybe you don't share this opinion, but in my opinion, it's worth it. There's so much freedom and relief in just letting go of all of that and letting people think what they want and losing all the things you're so afraid of losing, letting go of all these things that the narcissist has been holding over your head to control you with, and just letting it be, and just losing all these relationships or whatever it is you're giving up, because that's really the only way in some situations to cut off the control that the narcissist has with you. And there's really nothing that the narcissist can hold over your head, or not very many things that the narcissist can hold over your head that's really worth continuing to live as if somebody else owns you and somebody else has the right to control your life. At the end of the day, you can't control the way a group of people see you when they are emotionally invested in the narcissist and you're trying to move on with your life. You can't control the way that plays out. And trying to control it just keeps you trapped in this toxic relationship with this toxic circle of people, and really no reward, nothing worth it. And you can stay trapped there for decades. One more way that a narcissist hoovers you back into the relationship is by misunderstanding things. This is really powerful, especially when you're trying to break free of an abusive relationship that has hurt you so much. The narcissist misunderstands so many things. They could text you, write you letters, or send message, maybe a friend tells you something the narcissist said to them. And these messages can be things like, you don't even care about them, or maybe you dumped them, but they're telling people that they dumped you. Or maybe they will say right to you. They will send a message that says that they're the one that dumped you, and not in a way like they're arguing the point, but maybe they say something like, I had to end this relationship because of the way that you do X, Y, and Z. And you're thinking like, wait, I'm the one that ended this relationship. Or maybe they'll say things like, I found out how much money you have and you've been lying to me this whole time, when you don't even know what they're talking about. Or maybe they'll say something like, I saw you at the store with so-and-so. I knew you were seeing them behind my back, when that's not true at all. Or you were never with so-and-so. And it's so hard to resist the urge to engage, to re-enter this relationship in order to clear up this misunderstanding. When narcissists do this just so that you will do that, to regain control of you, to keep you engaged in this nonsensical argument over nothing. They misunderstand things on purpose to rile you up and hoover you back in. And I think it's really important when the narcissist messages you, or you hear some message in some way that makes you feel compelled to clear up this misunderstanding. When you feel this compulsion, just stop. Any kind of message you get from the narcissist that makes you want to respond in any way, just stop and just let it rest and think about it for at least an hour. And many, many times when you just sit and think about it and you let it stew, let it sit for a little bit before you react, you'll start to see it more realistically. You'll start to see holes in it and think, wait, why are they saying that when just yesterday they were saying this other thing? Wait, that doesn't make any sense. And you can also, while you're waiting there thinking about it, understand that they're probably misunderstanding things on purpose just to work you up, just to get you re-engaged in this nonsensical, endless argument that will go on forever and ever. Because that's what makes them feel like they have control over you. That's what makes them feel like they are important and powerful, because they can still control your emotions even though you've moved on. So the bottom line when it comes to the narcissist's Hoover is to remember that any way that they're trying to suck you back in, to engage with them, to get emotionally worked up, or to give them another chance, anyway, this is always all about control. That's why these Hoovers aren't always all about getting back together with them. They're really about getting back under control, whether it means getting back together with them or whether it means arguing with them endlessly for 7 hours over something that didn't even happen. Whatever it is, it's about the narcissist regaining control over you and proving to themselves that they still own you. They still have emotional control over you. That's what the Hoover is about. It isn't about how important you are to them, at least not in an emotional way. Maybe it's important to them to show themselves that they still control you, but you as a human being, it has nothing to do with how important you are as a human being. It has nothing to do with how important the relationship is to them. It has nothing to do with what you mean to them on an emotional level. It has nothing to do with any kind of emotional connection they have or any kind of worth that you actually have to them. It has absolutely nothing to do with your value as a human being. You need to commit to the idea that you are done, no matter what your emotions try to get you to do after that. You're done. You're not going to give this person a second chance to hurt you more. Even if they say X, Y, or Z, even if they suddenly seem to understand something that you've been trying to explain to them for 7 years, you're done. No more second chances, no more opportunities given to them to hurt you. And this can mean that you need to learn to let them be wrong. Let them misunderstand. Let them think you're a terrible person. Even let them say this to other people. Let them lie. You can't control that. Let them do whatever it is they want to do. And don't let yourself get wrapped up in the games they're playing with other people, trying to convince everybody else, including themselves, that this is all your fault somehow. The narcissist is never going to stop doing this. You can't change the kind of person they are. All you can do is free yourself from this game that they will never stop playing, and stop trying to maintain a relationship that you are trying to end. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.